Right, good morning again, members. Thank you for attending, and officers. Julie, could you confirm we have live streaming, please?
Yes,
we do. Thank you. So we'll start today's meeting of Breckland Council for July. Item 1 on your agenda, apologies. Oh, we were going to do a roll call, of course. Okay. Right. I had a look around, I thought. Okay then, Julie, could we do a roll call, please?
Thank you, Chairman. Councillor Anscombe. Councillor Ashby.
Present.
Councillor Askew. Councillor Atterwill.
Present.
Councillor Bambridge.
Here.
Councillor Bate.
Here.
Councillor Annie Blackburn. Councillor David Blackburn. Councillor Borrett.
Present.
Councillor Bowes. Councillor Brindle.
Here.
Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen.
Here.
Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen.
Here.
Councillor Clark.
Present.
Councillor Clausen. Councillor Cogman.
Here.
Councillor Cowan.
Here.
Councillor Crane. Councillor Duffield.
Here.
Councillor Dygan. Councillor Eagle. Councillor Fraser. Councillor Gilbert. Councillor Harvey.
Present.
Councillor Hewitt.
Here.
Councillor Jermy.
Here.
Councillor Cadell.
Here.
Councillor Kiddle-Morris.
Here.
Councillor Kybird.
Here.
Councillor Land.
Here.
Councillor McCambridge. Councillor Monument. Councillor Morton.
Here.
Councillor Nunn.
Here.
Councillor O'Callaghan.
Here.
Councillor Oliver. Councillor Plummer.
Here.
Councillor Richmond.
Present.
Councillor Sherwood.
Present.
Councillor Suggett. Councillor Samantha Taylor.
Here.
Councillor Sarah Taylor. Councillor Taylor Taylor. Councillor Terry.
Here.
Councillor Thurban.
Present.
Councillor Turner.
Here.
Councillor Webb.
Here.
Councillor Wickerson.
Here.
Councillor Wilkin.
Here.
And Councillor Wilkinson.
Here. Any more apologies from the floor?
Chairman, I have apologies from Councillor Askew, Councillor Annie Blackburn, Councillor David Blackburn, Councillor Crane, Councillor Eagle, Councillor Gilbert, Councillor Suggett and Councillor Sarah Taylor.
Okay, thank you, Julie. I'm willing to accept those apologies. Oh, we've got some more here, have we?
Councillor Oliver.
And you did mention Councillor Dygan, Julie, is not a Breckland member now, any county. Yeah. He's been here, he was here that long, wasn't he? Yeah, don't worry about it. Yeah. Okay, thank you, Julie. Thank you. Okay, item 2, the minutes for the last meeting, information on pages 4 to 13. Are members happy? I agree the minutes. Okay, so I will sign the minutes. Thank you. Right, item 3 on the agenda, declaration of interest. Have members any interest to declare? Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. Yes, I've got an interest. It's item 13 on our agenda, the Breckland Bridge Business Plan. I am the member director of Breckland Bridge, so I will vacate the room when that item is being discussed.
Thank you, Councillor. Any more? No. Okay, thank you. Right, item 4, Chairman's announcements. I have, as you know, been out and about representing Breckland, and I just wanted to have a little bit of an icebreaker and show you some photographs from the President's Day in Thetford. It's an inspiring sports day where all abilities are brought together. It's an inclusion sports day with young people with difficulties, physical and learning difficulties as well, and it's so inspiring. You can see one picture there. I'm signing a young boy's shirt. He came up. I was talking to Sir Trevor Brooking, who was there along with Peter Shilton, a hero of mine, a Derby County goalkeeper from England, of course. And I won't mention Nottingham Forest when he played for them. And like I said, Sir Trevor Brooking. And I was talking to Sir Trevor, and this little lad come along and said, "Oh, mister, can I have your autograph?" And Trevor said, "Yeah, where do you want it?" He said, "No, not you, mate, him." So, and his mum said, she thought you was a wrestler. She said, "Your chain looks like it's one of those WWF, I think it is, wrestler's belts." And she said, "You know, make his day, go with it, go with it." So it was really, really nice day out. That was very good. And I'd like to thank one of our officers, Ben Cooper Welch, for hosting me all day long. And I'd like Ben to thank Richard, the centre's manager, for me as well. They never left my side all day and made me feel very, very welcome, the wife and I. And also I'd like to mention thanks to the Thetford Academy students as well, who helped along with the children there, who came right across East Anglia and Essex. So thank you for that, indulging me on that one. Today I'm going to announce my charities. And my first one will be the Swaffham and Litcham Hospice. Now this is based in Swaffham. They do an awful lot of work and helping residents right across Breckland as well as Norfolk. And I have come across residents in my wards who are using their service. And I have today Georgie Roberts, she's kindly came along today just to give you a 5-minute briefing on what they do. And I'd ask Georgie to come up, please. Thank you.
Thank you. Good morning. I am Georgina Roberts, and I'm here to tell you about the Swaffham and Litcham Home Hospice. We're based behind Tesco's in an industrial unit, and in the team there are 7 part-time people, about 30 volunteers, and we have no beds. That's our sort of policy. So we're a home hospice. Imagine you are, I don't know, John and Mary, and you are in a car with a caravan loaded up with children and equipment, and you're going up to the North Norfolk coast for your annual camping family holiday. You're in a traffic jam, but you're not really worried because actually it's a fun day out and a fun week out, and you're looking forward to it. Roll on 30 years and you come to contemplate your retirement, and you remember Swaffham as somewhere with good memories despite the traffic jam, and you realise that you could sell your property and buy a bungalow in Swaffham. And that's what you do, and it all goes well for a bit until one of you is ill. And that's where we come in. That's our core business, really, if you like, as well as the rural isolation that we come across. But those people that come into the community at that stage in life are a lot of the people we deal with. So what do? We get this referral from a hospital or from the consultant or doctors or friends or the family saying, this is the situation. Invariably, it comes with a request for transport. How do I get to Addenbrooke's? How do I get to Norfolk and Norwich? How do I get to the QE? I need to be there for 6 weeks every day, 5 days a week. My husband drives, he's the one that's ill, or I'm not capable of driving to Cambridge and back on that sort of basis. Can you help out? At that stage, we come in and we say, yes, of course we'll do that. But it's not just the driving, we're meeting someone then, and we are able to assess their needs through what they say. We realise that actually they haven't been shopping for a bit. They've been too worried about the illness. They haven't had any breakfast that morning, just basic things like that. You get them a cup of tea and a biscuit before they go in for their treatment. You suggest calling in a supermarket on the way back to get them some supper so that they're not going in tomorrow with the same situation as they did today. So it's that first initial contact that we have with our transport people that starts the journey, if you like. It might be after they've had their treatment that we never see them again, but they know we're there, and most of the time they come back to us at some stage saying, my daughter can't get up from wherever it is she lives. Could you possibly take me to my checkup? Or I've got a problem with, can you help? Or where do I go for advice in? And that's the kind of thing we do. We have about 100 people we help a year. We did last year 26,000 miles, toing and froing, taking people back. We are the neighbour that they don't have, that gets to know them really well. These people don't have long-term work colleagues who pop round and say, how about going off and having a drink in the pub and talking about what's going on in your life? We are that. We are the person they talk to. We are the person that rings them up saying, what's going on in your life at the moment? Is there anything we can do to help? We are the constant, if you like, in their lives. Over the years, I've been there for 38 years. Terrifying. I started off by looking for a charity that I felt I could help with, and having had a mother who died very early of cancer, I realised that there was definitely things that would have been good to have offered her. So what is it that this particular family needs? And because we're so small, and because we have a very focused thing, we help people with life-threatening diseases, but primarily cancer. We can turn around and listen to what they want and respond. So when the NHS doesn't or can't do transport, we seem to get in there. When recently there was a lot of bereavement help needed, we suddenly found that that's what people called on, and we can provide that. So we have 3 counsellors, there's no waiting list. We don't turn around and say you can only have 6 sessions. We sit there and work it through with people. Sometimes they need 1 session, sometimes they need 10. It just depends on the individual. So we're immensely flexible. And that, I think, is very interesting over the years. That's the way things have gone. And as the needs in the community change, so do we. Over the years, I've been the person that's been driving the car, taking a mother and child to Addenbrooke's. Father would have loved to have taken them every day, but how can you keep a job if you're trying to drive your wife and child in for treatment for 6 weeks? There are all these sort of concerns that people go through. Counselling with us is not just bereavement counselling, and of course we picked up a lot of that during COVID, but it's also counselling. People need to talk things through at critical times in their life, and we are that person. So we do individual care like that. We sit with people at home. We also have groups. Over the period of time, I've run an art and crafts group. We now have a tea with friends, which came about after COVID, a way of getting people back into the community once their fear of meeting other people was slightly reduced. So getting people back into normality, if you like. We are free at the point of delivery, so we do not charge anyone for anything, but people turn up and give us donations, and it's immensely humbling to see people of sometimes very modest means turn up with a small donation. We have a bill of about 100,000 every year to cover, and we get about 1/3 of that from the NHS. The rest is from donations and from fundraising. I think that's me covered. Thank you. There's a leaflet here if anyone wants it, and there are a few more hanging around. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Georgie, and you're welcome to stay or leave when you desire. Like I said before, I've had... Robert?
Chairman, could I just remind you that a past member of this council, Derek Mortimer, died recently?
Yes, they'll come to that, council.
OK, and his funeral's at 11 a.m. tomorrow at St Cuthbert.
Yeah, I've got all that, council. I will come to that. I was just going to say that I have come across residents who, in my patch, who have used the counselling service at the Swaffham Hospice, and it's been very uplifting for them. They've been down in the doldrums, and all of a sudden, as a light comes on when they realise there's help there. My second charity for the year is the Sands Baby Bereavement Society. They work across Norfolk as well as the United Kingdom. I've had, as Breckland's governor at the QEH, I've come across many situations where there has been baby bereavement and different things like that, and I've met the team and supported the team who knit the little hats for the babies as well when they're born. So there's a big thing going there. I've got a video. I'm only going to do 1 minute of this video just as the lady to introduce herself. She's not been able to come today, but we will invite them to a future council meeting. I don't know if that's possible. Julie, put that. Here we go, the video now. No sound.
SANS is a national organisation set up in 1990.
I think we'll leave that. I think we'll leave that, thanks. We can't hear that today. If you can clear that. But that's my second charity, which is very important, and it is works locally, and they have supported members and residents across Norfolk. Before I move on to... Sorry. Oh, sorry, Councillor Atterwell.
Chairman, thank you for the opportunity to speak. Can you hear me? And I'm sorry that the video didn't play. I just wanted to say from a personal perspective, a lot of you know that my baby granddaughter died last year, and SANS have been immensely supportive of my family, and I'm very aware of the great work that they do, and I do hope that all members will do their very best to try and support you in your fundraising efforts this year. They continue to support my family. I think it's a fantastic charity, and I'm really grateful to you for making that one of your charities for the year. Thank you, Peter.
Thank you for that endorsement, Roger. Yes, they're very important, and they are work locally. Just before I move on, I'm still going to do the Chairman's Community Champions programme, which was started by a former Chairman, Mike Nairn. So if anybody, any members got community champions they feel they need recognition and they've not already been recognised, then please email in at the chairman at breckland.gov.uk, and one of my team will pick your emails up and arrange a day when we can come to your area. Moving on to the, most of you would know that former District Councillor and Mayor of Thetford, Derek Mortimer, recently passed away. And for those who knew him, his funeral has been arranged for tomorrow, Friday the 14th of July, at 11 a.m. at St Cuthbert's Church, Thetford, followed by a private burial. There will be no flowers, but donation in support of St Nicholas Hospice may be made. There will be a website for that. Julie or Teresa will be able to pass that on if any members would like that. Yes, yeah, and if you wish to make a personal donation. Traditional funeral attire will be worn. So, in respect of a former member, I feel 1 minute silence would be appropriate if members will indulge me in a 1 minute silence.
Thank you, Chairman. Sorry, just very briefly, I'd just like to say when it reminded me of Derek Mortimer when I saw your day at Thetford, because the same I had been there when, as chairman of this council, when Derek was the mayor of Thetford, and he had a cane and he was sitting inside the main building, which I hadn't realised till the end of the function of being there 2, maybe 3 hours with all the children and Frank Bruno, etc. And we were then going on to another function on behalf of the council. And my wife and I thought, well, we'll just nip into the toilets and then we'll be ready to go. At which point, when we got in there, we saw Derek for the first time. And I said, hello, Derek, how are you doing? Oh, fine, fine, fine. He said, what are you doing here now? I said, oh, we're just going to the loo and then we're off. And he went, well, no, don't go, because Frank Bruno will be here soon. He'd actually left because he'd been there for 2 hours or more and actually left. So someone had to break the news to Derek that it was fine because he had his cane sitting indoors, but he'd actually missed most of the event, which always made us laugh. And also when I done a fundraising tandem ride with Councillor Nunn, who was there a minute ago and he's disappeared, we started in Thetford at 8 o'clock in the morning, and Derek was up bright and early to see us off, which we were always very thankful of, because he was getting on a bit then, I think, but I'm not sure how old he was when he passed. But very, very fond memories of Derek. Thank you.
Thank you, Nigel. That's good to hear memories from members, of former members, and I hope people remember me in the same way. Oh, sorry, Councillor.
Thank you very much, Chairman. When I became a councillor in Thetford, Derek was already well established, and you'll know that he was true blue, but he was very, very helpful to me personally. He helped me understand the ropes, and I'm always grateful to him for that. And I'm probably the only person in the room who can say that he shared a room with Derek. I won't discuss that any further, but a really good local councillor. Well done, Derek.
Thank you very much, Councillor. That's really nice to hear. Okay, I'll move swiftly on now, members. Item 5 on your agenda, leader's announcement. I'd like to invite our leader, Sam Chapman-Allen, to make any announcements you might have.
Lovely, thank you, Chairman. And I'll start off by talking around the Local Government Chronicle Awards, which colleagues will be aware of. I made us aware that we've been a finalist, but I'm delighted to say that Breckland Council has won that national award for the excellent support we provide some of our most vulnerable residents in Breckland. And for a district council to pick up the health and social care category at the LGC Awards is a big feat. We won this prize in recognition of our integrated work delivered by this council and through our strong partnerships with the National Health Service and local charities and other partners to tackle those health inequalities across the district. And particularly through our Inspiring Communities programme, in which we've been able to help hundreds of people who have experienced domestic abuse, isolation and loneliness, and those with mental health needs. And as such, I'd like to sincerely thank all of you as members of this council for supporting that programme of activity and the investment we made in such an important area. But also, Chairman, just like to place on record my thanks to all of our partners for their sterling efforts over those last few years and the trust they've placed in us as a district council to allow us to work in partnership to deliver those much needed services for those residents across the district. Chairman, I just want to talk around Breckland Build Together Families programme, and our work to support those in need is never over. And so I'm pleased that we're able to recommission our innovative mental health support programme for young people and their families in Breckland. After a really successful pilot project, we're working with a non-profit organisation to deliver that wellness and therapy service to those individuals across the district who find themselves having any mental health requirements and needs. And our work with the Breckland Advisory Board has been exemplar in able to commission this locally with those young people requesting and delivering that scope of activity we've needed to deliver to support not just them, but also their families through their concerns and health issues. Chairman, I just want to move on to temporary accommodation and the note which was sent out via colleagues some weeks ago, just to give an update on those extra 10 temporary accommodations we've acquired. Those refurbishments, Chairman, have now taken place and they've now been brought into immediate use for those short-term properties for those who find themselves in need of temporary accommodation. Chairman, this only goes some way to the activity this council's making, and my Cabinet signed off on our future housing position at Cabinet some weeks ago, and we'll go through the minutes of that shortly. But it gives a really clear indication of this council's investment in increasing our housing stock and our ownership to provide that good quality accommodation. Chairman, we're out to 44 units across the district. We must acquire more, and I know that the Councillor Bowes is working with officers and her Finance Cabinet member to find that capital funding required to provide that accommodation across the district, and we will continue to support those who find themselves in need. Chairman, I'm aware that people across the district have concerns around their tenancy arrangements and the type of accommodation they are provided. And Chairman, I made a really clear statement that we will use all of our statutory levers possible to take the required action to support those who find themselves in challenging circumstances. And around housing provision, Chairman, I'm pleased that this council has once again been on the front foot in tackling those rogue landlords we may find within the district, ensuring that good quality housing is provided for those who require it, regardless of your circumstances. Chairman, we dealt with that case when it came to our knowledge. We investigated and we issued a £40,000 fine to that landlord who was responsible for that poor upkeep of that accommodation. We will continue to do that across the district. I implore every member of this council, if you are aware of any accommodation which you believe falls below the standard required, please make sure you use the report it function on our website so that our housing team can go out and investigate it. Chairman, final bit for me around food inspections. Not the most glamorous activity which we undertake and something which probably goes unseen by many of us across the district. And the work we undertake through our environmental health team, inspecting routine premises and businesses across the district on a daily basis, ensuring those unsafe establishments either have that remedial work undertaken or given that immediate closure, to making sure we're protecting everybody across the district. Chairman, as of today, we have a massive 98.5% of premises across the district with a 4 and above rating. That's a really impressive position, but there is more to do. We want as many to be achieving that 5-star as practically possible. But this is not a legal standard. This is around us giving that advice and support to those businesses, showcasing that actually we work in partnership with businesses to protect everybody across our district. But that, of course, Chairman, moves into our wider activity through our summer programmes, and where the residents are visitors, all residents across the district eating out and supporting our fantastic Breckland economy. We want to make sure that everybody is visiting our vibrant market towns and rural villages, and whether that's attending the incredible events we've had recently in Thetford or the stage and screen will be taking place across the August period, everybody should have confidence that Breckland Councils continues to work hard behind the scenes to make sure we have a safe and enjoyable summer. I'm happy to take any questions on questions without notice shortly, Chairman.
Yeah, thank you, Leader, for that excellent update. Item 6, questions on notice, understanding order number 6. I haven't received any. Item 7, questions without notice, standing order number 7. Questions must be directed to the leader or relevant portfolio holder. So I will start with the main opposition leader, Terry Jeremy, if you have any, Councillor.
Thank you, Chairman. If I may, I would just like to start with a confession, because yesterday I committed a bit of a political faux pas. As members might know, I type out my questions in advance and all of my notes and comments that I want to raise in the meeting, and I email them to myself in preparation. But yesterday, rather than sending them to myself, I sent them to Sam. I'm rather hoping, like many of my emails, he just deleted them. But if not Sam, I'm hoping for some really cracking answers today. But as you probably know, I want to start with a question on ticket offices for train stations. Train operating companies and the government have announced plans to close almost all ticket offices across the country. These offices and the staff are recognised as providing vital services for residents, supporting passenger safety, security and accessibility. In Breckland, we are served by 2 very good train stations in Thetford and Attleborough. That consultation closes on the 26th of July. Will Breckland Council be responding to that consultation, advocating to keep our ticket offices, and will you agree to promote the consultation opportunity through the Council's social media channels, please? Thank you.
Thanks, Terry. And just to confirm, we have a very good professional working relationship, and I did not look at the questions in advance, Terry, only just very briefly. So in relation to your challenge and the 4 stations we have across the district, because let's not forget Eccles and Harlyn, but our 2 main ones in Thetford and Attleborough, we will be responding to the consultation. For me, our public transport around rail has a really important role to play for the connectivity and supporting everybody across the district. And those who are unfamiliar with our localities, I think those ticket offices offer a valuable introduction to those communities. But more importantly, those who find themselves having mobility in challenging circumstances need that face to be able to support them with either accessing the ticket machines or how to access the platform itself, or accessing and disembarkation, if that's the correct term, for the carriages themselves. So we will be responding in the most robust way possible. I'm frustrated with this. I know that there is wider activity going across the whole of the rail network around guards, but for me, ticket offices are valuable parts of our community, and I would hate to see the loss of them at Thetford and Attleborough.
Thank you. I invite Councillor Attewell of the Independent Group.
Thank you, Chairman. My question's for Councillor Hewitt. It's been several months now since we had an update. Could you give me an update, please, on the progress of the sale of Barnum Broom Golf and Country Club?
Thank you, Councillor Attewell. And the answer is I can't give much of an update at the moment because the process is still continuing. As we briefed previously, there are quite a long-winded series of legal and commercial requirements that we need to do as part of the disposal programme. We are still within that process, and I will update you as soon as I hear anything more.
Okay, got that. Okay, thank you for that. Councillor Land.
Thank you, Chair. This question was to have been addressed to Councillor Crane, but unfortunately she's not here, so I think I'm going to have to address it to the leader, Sam. I've had repeated complaints from residents about Serco, and this is a bit of a running sore, and particularly regarding a failure to pick litter prior to cutting grass or trimming hedges. Apart from being messy and potentially dangerous, it increases the likelihood quite considerably of soil contamination with plastics. Could a Cabinet member confirm, please, what is being done about this? Thank you.
Thanks, Terry, for the question, and thanks for raising this with me on Tuesday. And I know you've had a walk around with the Assistant Director to raise some of those concerns from an operational perspective. I know that the AD and the Cabinet member are working with Serco to understand what checks and balances we should have in place aren't. Once that's been confirmed and I have an understanding of the operational outputs, I will confirm that to you, but all members of this council, so that we can all monitor our areas to ensure that what we say we're going to do, we are doing.
Thank you. Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. I've clearly got a lot to learn because I omitted to email my question to Councillor Hewitt and possibly Councillor Cowan to chip in as necessary. My question, really, Director, I think it's to Councillor Hewitt, I hope. Breckland have recently announced a review of all their car parks in Dereham and how they can best support our market towns. Naturally, I welcome any support that my market town and others may get. We've had extensive studies undertaken by Hatch and the Dereham town delivery plans as our market towns. Some economies may be more fragile than others and depend on not only town-located shoppers, workers, but the hinterland beyond, visitors and villagers using our car parks. Can I stress the need to look at the wider picture in any decisions taken on the car parks and a future approach, not possibly an assets approach of what can we get? Many years ago, I campaigned to keep the Cherry Tree car park in Dereham free. I have a greater potential worry, but I'm sure I can be assured otherwise. Can you rule out any intention to sell the Cherry Tree park as a whole or in part or any others in Dereham for residential development or putting forward as a suitable site for housing? Please don't kill Dereham, Paul. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Clark. And we've been talking for a couple of years, haven't we, about some of the challenges that you have seen and witnessed and reported about the Cherry Tree car park in terms of vehicles that are parked there for considerable periods of time. The survey, Councillor Clark, is part of our business as usual activity for all of our property assets. The last time we carried out a full survey was in 2016. And I can confirm there is no decision or predetermination to move away from the current model that we operate in Swaffham, in Attleborough, in Dereham, in Watton, and in Thetford. But at the same time, and you will appreciate because of the conversations we've had in the past, neither is there going to be a binary or a soundbite or a political trope that just says we will do X or Y. The critical point here comes out from the survey and what the survey data says. The data might say we've got too many car parks in one place. The data might suggest that some of our car parks can't be found. The data might suggest, which actually you've reported in the past, some vehicles in some of our town centre car parks are parked for very long periods of time or are parked into the town centre car parks in the morning in order to carry on additional transports to move into Norwich or various other things like that. The one thing that I can say for absolute certainty is that I get written by people who say, if we change anything in our car park provision at the moment, it will be the death knell of our town centres. And at the same time, I get written by other people who say, how can we be clear with our 2035 objectives when we're almost encouraging people to drive directly into our town centres, particularly for short periods of time? I have businesses writing to me to say, where will my staff park if they cannot park all day in our car parks? And I have other businesses writing to me to say, we provide as a business parking provision for our staff, why are we paying twice to encourage our competitors to allow their staff to park for free? And absolutely critical, I also have people contacting me that says, I don't have a car, so why am I paying for car parking provision for people to move into or drive into my town and then leave their car for a long period of time? These are, as you guessed, subtle, sophisticated, interlinked arguments. And the only thing I think I can say for certainty is, if every single taxpayer in Breckland is subsidising our car parking provision, whether they own a car or not, whether they work in the district or not, we need, and our survey will help us determine this, to be absolutely clear as to what a possible solution will and should look like. any solution will involve, as you rightly identify, consultation with our towns, consultation with our residents, and consultation with our businesses. Thanks, Harry.
Thank you. I'll invite now Councillor Cogman.
Thank you. A question to the leader. So Breckland is represented on the Norfolk Strategic Flood Alliance, and the most recent meetings were 27th of March, 25th of May, and the next being the 19th of July. The March and May details I don't think have been circulated to members yet. In the past, you as leader have kindly represented us on the Alliance and asked that you use your good offices in that forum to ask both the flood team and political leaders to give greater urgency and information concerning the frequent flooding of the Moorgate underpass, affecting many residents in my ward, Dereham-Toffwood, and neighbouring Deering-Withburger. I know this is a Highways England matter, and Norfolk County Council are helping without prejudice. When this is blocked, there have been incidences of residents, including school-aged children, trying to bypass this by crossing the A47. The school children who use the route heavily adds like a mile onto their walk to school, so obviously they take risks, and I don't think I need to spell out the dangers of this. It seems that there's a threshold of only action or concern when properties are flooded, not circumstances such as these. So today, I'm afraid, as a local councillor, I have been unable to get a proper written response or clarity or understanding of the situation or assurances from the County Councillor for Dereham South, and nor quite understanding how it can be escalated. So can you help, please? Myself and or Councillor Taylor are happy to meet with Norfolk County Council officers, portfolio holders, any relevant ward members.
Thanks for the question, Councillor Cogman, and I know Councillor Taylor met with me. Just to, I guess, for all new members, please don't feel you have to wait for full council to raise these type of concerns with me. My inbox is there. Drop me an email, and I will arrange any site visits or facilitations I can. So please do drop me the details. I'll staff that effectively with National Highways, and if it's not myself, one of my cabinet colleagues will join you with those representatives to absolutely press home the challenges, and we need to find that solution PDQ.
Councillor Richmond.
Yes, thank you, Chair. A question for Councillor Webb, if I may. Please, can you update the Council on how we're supporting the Norfolk Armed Forces Covenant Board, please?
Thank you, Councillor Richmond. Yes, I'm privileged to be have the opportunity to represent the Council on the Norfolk Armed Forces Covenant Board. Although I've only been in the post for a few weeks, I'm delighted to have taken up this role at a time when Breckland is striving to do so much for the community. The timing of this is really good because earlier this week, on Monday, I spent the day with veterans and members of the community here in Dereham, hearing about and learning about their first-hand experiences. And it was a real eye-opener. From that, I've been able to reflect that given armed forces is a community priority for the Council, through to Breckland Cares campaign, we are really striving to do all we can to help this essential local community. Members will no doubt be aware that last year we achieved gold status as an organisation within the Armed Forces Covenant and made a number of significant changes in the way we work and deliver service to achieve that accreditation. Members will no doubt be aware that last year, building on that, we are now rolling forward a programme of activity to enhance what we do and how we work with the entire Armed Forces community. Last month, for the first time, Breckland celebrated Armed Forces Week, which was a fantastic success. And how we work with the Armed Forces Fit community was going to be building into a programme of activity to reference what we do. As I said, for the first time last month, we held events and workshops that involved over 500 glasses up, different people and organisations, ran events and campaigns that engaged over 3,000 employers and linked over 200 new employment opportunities direct to forces, leavers and charities. We forged new friendships and partnerships and brought the community together here in Elizabeth House. We engaged our entire workforce in the needs and opportunities of working with the armed forces communities and provided direct training to staff. As a result, now we have more armed forces champions employed in the council than any other authority in the region. We should be really proud of that. And we have celebrated the most successful and best attended flag raising ceremony here at Elizabeth House in recognition of Armed Forces Day. It was good to see so many people come and turn out. So I want to put on record my thanks to all the members and officers who participated in events and supported the week. The challenge for us will be to maintain the momentum and continue to champion the role of the community locally. I look forward to be able to update new members, both old and new, in regard to the Armed Forces Covenant Board and our direct actions as a council. And if you want to know any more about this, please contact me and I will try and get answers back to you. But I can honestly recommend it's one of the best things we as Breckland Council are doing. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Chair. It's a question for the Leader of the Council. Many young people with learning difficulties or a disability will want to have a job in the future. To achieve this goal, they may need additional support during their training or in the workplace. With the horrific statistic that just 4% of young adults with special educational needs or disabilities are in full-time or part-time work, what can Breckland District Council do to support businesses that employ who are aiming to employ these young adults?
Thanks, Stuart, for the question, and thanks for meeting me this week for a coffee to talk through this challenge, particularly in the community of Thetford. Councillor Clausen is working through his directorship around how we can continue to, I think, raise this awareness across the business sector. You may or may not be aware, members, that DWP has a budget allocated to them to get processes and practices and or changes around a workforce or equipment or processes to be able to support anybody who may have a disability, to get them into work, or if they're in work and then something changes around their circumstances, to allow that to take place. Councillor Clausen's working through the secondary part around how we get those who are out of employment into employment, and those who have low attainment or no attainment upskilled or with skills. As you know, this isn't predominantly the activity for a district council. However, just like Inspiring Communities, we have an opportunity to target and focus our approach and support some of our most vulnerable in our communities. I'm hopeful that that will be coming forward as a confirmed programme activity in early autumn of this year. I know it will go through the relevant processes, but I'm sure that Paul and the relevant director will be happy to meet with you to talk around your concerns and your lived experiences to make sure that we're getting this right to supporting those most vulnerable. I will be instructing the ADs to release details to all members around the programme activity Department of Work and Pensions are doing across the district, and those points of contact so you can staff your relevant casework to those if you are made aware of them.
Thank you. I'll invite now Councillor Mac Cambridge.
Thank you. I'd like to direct my question to Councillor Cowan. So I'd like to ask about who Breckland Council are banking with and how the pensions are being invested, because bank and pension investments provide huge financial support to the fossil fuel industry, which, as we all are well aware, is one of the main industries fueling the climate crisis. There are many options to choose banks and pension providers who are not investing in fossil fuel industry. Could you confirm the current arrangements for investments in pensions and banking services, please?
Thanks for that question. It's highly appropriate as well. In the current circumstances, I understand the nature of the question. However, the answer isn't probably going to be one that falls in your favour or anyone else's favour. Banking arrangements for this council are not just for this council. We have an arrangement with all Norfolk councils where we tender our banking facilities, and we have a contract for that. In the past, we banked with the Co-op Bank, and then the Co-op Bank withdrew themselves from the marketplace to deal with public organisations such as ourselves. So that enabled us to re-tender, and we got favourable rates from Barclays, as I'm sure you're aware. So we, along with all other Norfolk councils, have an arrangement with Barclays. It's a contract, it runs for a term, and it will, in the not too distant future, be coming up for renewal. And at that point, we, along with all the other Norfolk councils, will be seeking to re-tender our banking services. How that's going to pan out, I really can't say, but we are not able to break any arrangements, as you be aware, with Barclays. As far as our pension arrangements are concerned, you will be aware that the pension arrangements for this council and others in Norfolk is not in our direct control. And if you want any additional information on that, I'm sure that we'll be able to provide it to you. It is quite a complex arrangement, as you might imagine. Pensions are not the simplest of things to get one's head around. But we obviously contribute to the pension scheme, of which we and other authorities are an integral member. Thank you.
Okay, if I haven't missed any hands of anybody who hasn't asked any questions, this session is coming to a close. Sorry? Well, unless Councillor Jeremy, have you got another one?
Thank you, Chairman. Second question for the Leader, if I may. Sam, the government recently scrapped plans to employ 12 levelling up directors, and they were meant to drive forward the levelling up agenda across the UK. Scrapping the roles, it's been said, indicates that the government plans to wind down the levelling up programme, which leads me to wonder, given that both of our Breckland applications for levelling up funding has been turned down, is it likely that the levelling up programme is scrapped before Breckland receives any financial support from it?
Thanks, Chairman. So start off with the directors, which were pan-regional. My understanding is that the Department for Levelling Up and Communities have re-looked at how they're going to deliver that service, and actually they can do that within existing resources, which is important because fundamentally that's saving money for us as residents through taxation. In relation to the Levelling Up programme, I don't think we're rowing back on it at all. We're waiting for the final bill reading for the Levelling Up bill in September of this year. Royal assent to then be passed in October/November, and I think that will give a really clear position for the future activity around that. You may be aware the Secretary of State made a statement around future funding models of bids across the country and how we can streamline that, how we can port that money directly to councils so there isn't a competitive bidding process, but also ensuring that those areas such as us who have ambition and big scales of activity we want to undertake can still bid in for programmes. We're waiting for round 3 to be announced in the next couple of weeks, hopefully early September, which this council will once again be submitting bids forward. I hope that through the work of this council and others for our representation, that the processes and the formulas used to work out the weight of bids allows us to be successful this time. But as far as I'm concerned, Levelling Up, as I've said previously, has always been there. It's just that we've branded it as Levelling Up, but councils and governments, regardless of who they are, have always wanted to ensure investments taking place to allow everybody to understand their aspirations and potential.
Thank you, Leader. Councillor Atwell, I'll invite you to ask another question.
Yeah, question for Sam. It was reported in the press yesterday, national press, that the Levelling Up Department is having to hand back hundreds of millions of pounds of funding to the Treasury because it has a lack of schemes come forward from local councils for affordable housing. And I'm just wondering, with your work with the District Councils Network, if you'd like to comment on that. Is it a failure of government or is it a failure of local councils to really grip the problem and come up with innovative solutions?
So I'm aware, I don't know about the Levelling Up department, I'm aware Homes England have had to return some money back to Treasury. However, that's, as I understand, been paused. That may have changed since the article's been written and your research around it. I think there is work both sides have to do. For us, as an example, we've got schemes and activity we can move forward. I think that it comes back to how do we ensure that we're not going through that competitive bidding process, that we have a list across PAN, local, region and national of activities which are nearly shovel ready. The work we're doing through the district council's family and then the wider LGA is to prove that concept that Homes England can't be that arm's length organisation. It needs to be having those really positive, constructive relationships across the country. We have a good working relationship with Homes England within our region, but other locations necessarily don't. We've got to work through that and lift and shift those best practices found in the east to other parts of the country to make sure we're building those much needed houses across the country. You'll be aware, wider than that, the downturn in house builders and the number of units developed across the country from the most recent statistics. We're working through that. Some of that, sadly, is through nutrient neutrality, and we're not saying that nutrient neutrality is a bad thing. We're saying that that cliff edge announcement which occurred has slowed down the market, and we need to make sure we're working with those subject matter experts to ensure those who should be accountable for it, the water body and others, are doing what they need to do while still building those number of units. Then on top of that, of course, the inflationary costs of building materials and land values, and some of that's being picked up, land values through the infrastructure levy as an example. There are lots of different positions moving quite quickly. We need to make sure, for us locally, we're building those much needed houses in our communities.
Thank you. I've got time for one more question if Terry... Yes, okay.
Thank you, Chairman. Just one final question for Sam. Sam, I've got my summer reading sorted. Levelling Up 2.0, which you contributed to along with a number of other Conservatives. So firstly, congratulations. In it, you criticise the directly elected leader model with devolved structures integrated into the county council. And you say that parts of the local government family are bypassed in that model. Has Breckland Council been bypassed, and which governance structure do you support?
Well, thank you for reading the book, Terry, and I'm happy to sign a copy of that. And hopefully you've learned something around what makes Sam tick and some of my views and opinions. In relation to the Levelling Up devolution deal, for me, how can you have a devolution deal in which the constituted body, which is responsible for planning and housing, is not a constituent member of that organisation or group, whatever it is? And I don't really care what it is, ultimately, as long as you get the powers and the money, and this district council and others are able to exercise their full power to ensure we are providing those much needed homes, driving that growth and economy, back to Stuart's question, and ensuring we're delivering those great services for our communities. I've made my views and opinions clear, both publicly, thanks to your questions, and privately to those who need to hear it. I think that the offer for this county of Norfolk for a county devolution deal would place us in a position where we are not competitive for the rest of the country, because this deal is only being offered to 5, possibly 6 localities, and therefore we're doing ourselves a disservice. And I think that actually we need an equal playing field around a governance structure, whatever that is, so that everyone is clear who wants to do business in our county, but more importantly for our communities, that Norfolk isn't in a special case, that actually we are like the rest of the country, in which we are levelling up and driving forward that growth and homes, which we are doing across government's millions of pounds programme. But around our county deals, I will wait to see what that looks like. As I've said before, we are not part of that process. We are on the sidelines watching. You've seen our response we gave, and I wait with bated breath to find out how that progresses and moves forward.
Thank you. As the Councillor Attawell, another question, or you're okay?
Yeah, one more if I may. This one I think is for Councillor Clausen. Could you give us an update on the latest position regarding the painting of murals in Dereham Town Centre, please? Thank you.
The MTI is no more. MTI is finished, so that finished at the start of this financial year. With regard to the murals, I haven't as yet had a chance to have a meeting with those members
that were part of the MDR, which would be Harry, Linda, and Alison. So I'll be having a meeting with them to finally see where we go. But the only difference there will be this time, the money will be spent with regard to future Breckland work, because the mandate there, as you well know, is what the people told us they wanted.
Okay, thank you. That time is actually up now, the 30 minutes. Councillor Richmond, I did see you have your hand up again. If you'd like to put your question in writing to whoever you was going to refer it to, I will accept that. Thank you. Okay, moving on then. Item 8, minutes for information only. Any questions from members regarding these minutes? No. Okay. The Cabinet, 30th of May 2023, recommendations under minute number 54 to 23. The Finance and Performance Report will be considered under agenda item 10. Overview and Scrutiny Commission, 8th of June 2023. Again, the recommendations under minute number 3423. The Finance and Performance Report will be considered under item 10. Licensing Committee, for information, is on your agenda pack 37 to 50. At this stage, item 9, I will be holding that and bringing forward item 13 as to support the portfolio holder who has another meeting shortly. So I would invite, where are we? Paul Hewitt, Executive Member for Property Projects and Procurement, to present the report, which can be found on pages 111 to 149 of the agenda pack.
Thank you, Chair. I should just wait until Councillor Cowan has left. Chair, members, I'm delighted to present this report and the recommendations to approve the updated Breckland Bridge business plan for 2023 through 28. This approval process is an annual requirement for the joint venture partnership. The business plan was reviewed at Cabinet, which explored the commercial focus of Bridge, the main outputs from the partnership, the current challenges of the partnership, and our ambition for an exemplary environmental policy. Following this review, Cabinet has resolved to Council to renew the business plan, hence its appearance here. As a council, we decided a number of years ago for the benefit of residents to enter the property development market using an innovative joint venture with our partner, the Land Group. In presenting this report, I want to highlight just two important aspects of this partnership when recommending its extension. The first is how we as a council obtain best returns that we can from our property and land assets. The focus of the Bridge business plan is to ensure our land works for us. And to deliver this focus, we need a clear commercial remit. Through Bridge, we can generate commercial returns to this council, our residents and our taxpayers, which might ordinarily not be achievable. However, within this overarching ambition, we as a council also recognise that property and land that we own also help support our local communities. And we reflect this through our small sites disposal programme. I have said before, and I will say again, that as a council there are other returns we can get from our land outside of pure financial ones. In particular, the small sites programme is a process that we control as a council, not Bridge. And it's only towards the end of this process that Bridge gets directly involved in the sites that warrant Bridge to get involved in. And at that stage only, the output is in line with Bridge's status purpose. Chair, I know, and members will know, that the small sites process has been shared with members and identified on our website now for a while. As a process, it is pragmatic, as every land asset is unique. But at its root, the ambition is to provide value for all Breckland residents. There will need to be dialogue, compromise, and some give and take to ensure that everyone's interests can be met. Not everyone will get what they want. But working together, we can achieve an ambition to share resources in the district. For example, if a bigger, more suitable site is available nearby for community use, it's reasonable for one site perhaps to be developed and the other site to be left. I would urge all members to engage in this small sites consultation process on sites as they come forward, not only in reflecting the communities that you represent, but also knowing that we have a balancing act to obtain best value for all Breckland residents and not just those immediately affected in your patch. As I think one town clerk recently indicated, if land is valued by the community, take it off the list, but if it has no community value, all well and good, look at disposing it. Having said that, Chair, the Bridge business plan needs to be open and transparent as it possibly can be. We need to include every single conceivable piece of land within reason in the small sites list, even if there is a limited likelihood of land being delivered or not, or if a site is removed before potential delivery. I absolutely acknowledge, as do other members, that this transparency can cause concern, which some might exploit. But it is the nature of a transparent 5-year planning cycle that everyone should understand what may be and may not be on a plan agenda within Bridge over the next cycle. The second area, Chair, is the outputs and benefits that this joint venture produces. Our current focus is on the use of available property assets for residential housing delivery. We are not a large house builder, but as a partner to the joint venture, we as a council can lead on good design and sustainability standards in our schemes, as requested by you, the members of this council, and as requested by our residents. The environmental policy, a key part of this business plan renewal, seeks to minimise our environmental impact whilst complying fully with legislation and at the same time trying to improve building standards overall. Sustainability and environmental protection in every aspect, from design through to completion, are key elements of this policy, along with our targets for all homes built directly by Breckland Bridge to have an EPIC A rating. So in summary, and in supporting the recommendation, Chair, to update the Breckland Business Plan for 23 through 28, can I heartily recommend the plan to all members as being able to deliver and create important outputs for our residents and our taxpayers, and I support all members, please, to support the approval of the business plan.
Thank you, Councillor Hewitt. Any questions from members? Councillor Jeremy.
There we go. Thank you, Chairman. Not a question, but I would like to contribute to the debate. There's two main locations in Thetford Priory Ward that I represent that have been identified, either as part of Breckland Bridge or the small sites process. The first is Ben Cooley Drive. For those of you that know this area, it's a street of approximately 300 properties, nearly all of which are flats. Residents on Ben Cooley Drive have no gardens, they don't even have a balcony. The green piece of land identified was, for many, the only piece of green space that they could easily access in the area. And as this report table today identified, this is no longer part of Breckland Bridge, not because the council suddenly realised and recognised its community value, but because it's already been sold to a nearby resident. At this moment in time, it is still open, but no doubt in time there will be a fence put around it and access to that area denied. Not only physical access, but people will be denied the opportunity to look at what was once a pleasant green space. The resident bought it solely because they were scared about future development and other uses impinging on their life. An absolute race to the bottom. The other location in my ward is Glebe Close. Breckland Bridge has now spent several £1,000s on planning fees and design fees attempting to get planning permission for this site. Not once, but twice. Both applications were eventually withdrawn and more recently the proposals abandoned. Again, not because Breckland recognised the dozens and dozens of objections from local residents or respected the views of the local councillors who both objected to its potential development. No, the only reason Glebe Close won't be built on is because there's a gas pipeline underneath and that pipeline company put in a fairly major objection, meaning planning would never likely be achieved. Rather than now accepting that this space is undevelopable, Breckland has approached the Town Council and said that this space was surplus to requirements, offering it for sale, and that if the Town Council doesn't want it, it will be put up for public auction. No commuted sum for ongoing maintenance, just a 4-week window for the Town Council to respond and confirm whether they wanted it to be stopped, if they wanted to stop that public land being lost for good. Now, I've got no issue with the principle of Breckland Bridge. We should absolutely be looking at our land and considering all options. Best value should absolutely be considered. But as these examples demonstrate to me, Breckland Council's ability to recognise value is highly questionable. A space used by the community has value. A space important for the environment has value. I've got no faith in the process for selecting sites for sale or disposal, no faith that local residents' views or elected members' views for that much count for that much at all in this process. Breckland Bridge offers a short-sighted approach with little regard for the wishes of local people, little regard for democratically elected councillors. And the crucial point for me is once these sites are gone, they are gone for good. It is a high risk for very little financial gain, and for that reason, Chairman, I will be voting against.
Councillor Clark.
Thank you, Chairman. Mine is a comment rather than a question. Last October, Councillor Jeremy expressed his concerns about the small sites disposal process, which is why he voted against the report. Nothing has changed as far as I can see. As far as our residents are concerned, me too, the process of evaluating and disposing of small sites seems to me to be completely opaque and not transparent. There seems to be no criteria for how community value is to be decided or judged. No account of, say, habitual use, whether it needs 51% or more residents to be consulted, agree or not, whether alternative nearby public open green spaces are accessible by that demographic, and regard for equality of access, age, mobility and no timescale. In reviewing these small spaces, will it make developers more or less likely to provide the correct amount of outdoor playing space? They would think that, say, in Deering there was a surplus. There isn't. Best value really only kicks in when the decision has been made to dispose. There seems to me to be a total disconnect or disregard for any link to the local plan and planning in the widest sense, any recognition of informal areas for outdoor play and sport, such as fields in trust. The only areas over 100 square metres would qualify as a minimum space of play areas. Seems to be no formula or weighting, as there is in Deering, for example, shortage of open public space. Consideration of the possible further travel alternatives and the carbon footprint. No measure of mindfulness, and there doesn't seem to be an approach described to collaborate with parish or town councils. I do worry that the outcome of the small sites disposal will be left to the vigilance, alertness, scrutiny, persistence of parish town councils, ward members and individuals on a case-by-case basis, and possibly later to the vagaries sometimes of the planning process or not. Yes, I am expressing views of many residents in Deering, covering more than 9 sites as it happens, hundreds actually, who want particular sites registered as public open spaces, and those applications have been submitted. I am not standing out against developments everywhere on every single yard of Breckland land, especially for good quality design property, at least mixed tenure, and ideally genuinely affordable. Yes, Breckland are the legal owners, but also guardians and custodians of future generations. Land is precious, not just in the pound sign, and I've discovered they aren't making land anymore. Communities are held together by many threads, including, I suggest, public open spaces to where they live. Finally, the opposition position at the last election was made clear at the May elections. And can I gently point out that, to the best of my knowledge, Conservative campaign candidate leaflets all mentioned protecting green spaces. And I do hope these aren't empty words. Please prove me wrong. Thank you.
I haven't heard a question after those two comments, but I did ask for questions, so Councillor Terry.
Again, it's not a question, it's more of an observation. In recent times, and especially during the coronavirus pandemic, people in the UK have increasingly come to recognise the value of urban green space, particularly the benefits of health and well-being, the wildlife and the environment. Green spaces play an important role in all of our communities, but particularly more urban areas like Thetford. Green space nourishes our towns and existing character. They're important for families in particular and promote outdoor recreational use and helps towards an active lifestyle. It also improves environmental conditions and helps to protect biodiversity by creating wildlife habitat. Large green space and small parks can significantly improve a child's ability to concentrate. Green views out of windows connect with improved academic performance, and children who grow up in greener neighbourhoods are often less stressed and generally healthier and happier. There are numerous locations across the Thetford Boudica ward which is identified as development opportunities in the Breckland Bridge plan. All are much valued by the community in my ward that I represent. Residents would be devastated if these sites were sold or developed on. Valid green spaces in our towns mitigates the effects of pollution, and I do not have confidence in the consultation process outlined or in Breckland's ability to recognise and appreciate the true value of these spaces over and above the short-term financial value. Research shows really clearly that we need nature in our surroundings. We need trees in our streets, plants in our gardens, and flowers on our balconies. We need nature as our neighbour all of the time. Breckland has a responsibility to its residents, not just now, but in the future, to take care of nature in our towns. In return, the benefits to our health would be huge. Once these sites are gone, they are gone for good. It is that reason why I will not be supporting this recommendation.
Councillor Brindle.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. When we were children, we played in the street. We played football, had marbles in the gutter, we cycled. We even played cricket in the street. Can you imagine that nowadays? Can you imagine finding a street where there was insufficient passage of cars to let you play, and if there were cars passing, you'd be striking the parked cars all the time. So I'm very concerned about the age group that need to play organised or disorganised play in their area, safely near their home, and and they need green spaces for that. My question is, can Breckland Council show that they've reviewed the sufficiency of open spaces in any area where Breckland Council proposes to sell off or develop the land? I hope the answer is not going to be yes, because the evidence is that we don't give it sufficient concern. 2 minutes talk to a local councillor could have saved all the hassle on the particular area that Councillor Jeremy referred to, Glebe Close, because there are children who cannot safely reach any other green space from that community. It's very simple. If there's no other suitable green space, leave it alone. Thank you.
I believe that somewhere in that was a question, I believe, so I can answer it. The answer is, as you will know, Councillor, because you've gone through the Small Sites Disposal Programme, haven't you? Yes. Good. Thank you for the expression, suggesting you hadn't, but not to worry. I will outline it. The Small Sites Disposal, this isn't a bridge programme, this is the Breckland Council Small Sites Disposal Programme. When identifying sites within the district, and we've got some 4,000 sites within the district, some of which are very, very small, and are rightly, as I think Councillor Jeremy in Almond Grove a few years ago, you were supportive of transferring some land to a resident at the time. Some land, for instance, Councillor Land, who was supportive in Elizabeth Watling Close, and Councillor Terry and Anne Bartholomew Road and St Martin's Way. Some of these sites are right to be transferred to properties next door. Some of these other sites are right to be kept as open space. Some of these other sites are right to be transferred perhaps to a town council or to a village council, and we've been doing this over the last few years, who rightly appreciate the direct local needs of the residents that they themselves actually are closest to. And some of these sites might not be appropriate for any of those transfers, at which point, and it's at that stage, that Breckland Bridge will be tasked with trying to dispose of them at the best possible value. So all of the conversations so far, and particularly yours, I'm absolutely right. I'm very supportive of local communities taking control and ownership of local land within their remit if it is the right use of that land. Bearing in mind, of course, it's not the community's land, often it's ours. We need to look at the whole picture and make sure that all of our land is appropriate for all of the residents within the district and not just those who live next door to it. And if I can reply back, no, not to worry, if I can reply back, I'm hopeful that Thetford Town Council will take Ely Close, it's such a critical part within the town for the community to enjoy and take part of. They will take that transfer on.
Councillor Atterwell and then Councillor Borrett.
Thank you, Chairman. I'll just do the little parochial bit first, Paul, if I may, which you probably were expecting. What concerned me when I was at Cabinet last week and when this was discussed was 3 pieces of land put on the list from Swanton Morley, which has caused a great deal of concern for residents and the parish council as we thought we'd been through this process in terms of the long-term use of that land through the neighbourhood plan. So the Swanton Morley neighbourhood plan, in consultation with this council, it was agreed and then ratified through a formal referendum. One of the policies is that those 3 pieces of land are designated local green space. They will not be built on. Okay, so it's caused concern as to why that's now on the list, and I'm just concerned that there may be outside parties at Breckland Bridge who are determining the use of that land as opposed to all democratically elected people here. When I approached the subject last week, Mr Burton, the officer, said, when I pointed out this has got local green space designation, I was told, yes, but things can change over time. No, it won't. It definitely won't. So I just want to throw, that's the parochial bit. So then I want to just come on to the actual business plan itself. I'm slightly concerned about the open and transparent nature of this, and I'm wondering whether some of this should have been done in closed session. If we go to section 11, some of the references are blanked out. So I, as a councillor, cannot make a judgment on whether the financial contributions being made by Land Group are acceptable to me. I don't know what they are because they're blacked out, and I've only got you to say, yes, it's fine, because I really haven't got that information. So I would have liked to have seen that, please. And again, you know, obviously it's commercially sensitive and that's appreciated, but I'm wondering whether we should have had that information below the line. I want to thank Sam for his answer to my question earlier on about affordable housing, and he's agreed and acknowledged that this council needs to play its part in bringing forward schemes for affordable housing. Now, on page 84 of the finance report in our pack, it says in there that the council spent £1.4 million last year on housing benefit claims and temporary accommodation. This is against a budget of only £500,000. The demand is rapidly outstripping what we provided in our budget. I recently attended the workshop to look at the housing allocations policy. This year, at the moment, I think we've got 1,634 people on the housing register. In the whole of last year, we only managed to house 400 of them. We've currently got 118 people on the register classed as emergency cases. I don't see anything in this business plan that really addresses that desperate need to try and build more houses. We own the land as Breckland. Some of those pieces of land will most definitely not be suitable for development and will stay as green open space, and rightly so. We will determine that some of those pieces of land do warrant development, but I don't see how this plan gets buy-in from the local communities, and I certainly don't see how this plan builds us the affordable housing we need. What we have as a situation, and I sit on the planning committee and we determined a couple of these last week, is where we have Breckland Bridge puts in a planning application and then goes down the viability assessment route to try and minimise the amount of affordable housing that they're building. Yes, you're building market houses for sale, and you may be maximising the return in the short term for this council, but long term, we are not doing the work that we need to do to achieve the affordable housing build rate. We own the land. I'm just wondering why we aren't looking at some kind of exception site model that we can use for developments outside settlement boundaries, why we can't have a similar model inside the settlement boundary on these pieces of open space, get buy-in to build the affordable housing. The reason it'll be affordable is because the land cost isn't there. I don't see that this business plan helps with that, and perhaps you can tell me why you think I'm wrong.
There are probably many reasons why I think you're wrong, but let's start in sequential order. Firstly, the redactions in the plan as presented, we wanted to be absolutely clear that everything we bring to this council relating to Breckland Bridge can be as open and transparent as possible. And I'm sorry that if you had spoken to me beforehand, I could have given you the redacted data privately just to confirm to yourself that the amounts involved were good as far as the partnership was concerned. The second element, in being transparent and open as possible, I'm absolutely aware, as I pointed out in my preamble, that we have to identify every conceivable piece of land that may or may not fall under the bridge remit over the next 5-year part of the plan. I've had people talking about car parks. Well, car parks in there. Well, we are carrying out a car park survey, as we heard earlier on in a question, and we need, because car parks are our land, to be able to have the capacity to react and various things around that. The third thing is that you talk about affordable housing provision within the remit of Breckland Bridge. Breckland Bridge is a vehicle set up specifically to generate commercial returns. It is not set up for the remit of affordable housing per se. There are other work streams in the council that are involved in the delivery of affordable housing to meet our corporate priorities. Local plan policy provision for affordable housing, creation for dwellings for rough sleepers, temporary accommodation. Where some of those work streams might impact on Breckland Bridge identified land, then from that perspective we just need to be clear and transparent in terms of the land that's identified. So, I mean, the straightforward answer is there are other things that we can do, and we are doing, outside of the Breckland Bridge remit in terms of the affordable housing schemes that you're thinking of.
Before we go to Councillor Borrett, we'll allow Councillor Atwell come back.
Thank you for that answer. But you've accepted and you've said that this is about maximising the profit return on those pieces of land. As Councillor Clark said earlier, we're not making land anymore. when it's gone, it's gone. And my problem with this bridge plan as is, and the world has moved on since Breckland Bridge the concept was initiated, is we own the land. Therefore, the land is extremely affordable, makes it very affordable to build the affordable housing. Yes, you'll need to get third-party buy-in from affordable housing providers, you know, your flagships, etc. But that work hasn't been done. When that land is gone, the only way you're going to get affordable housing, you're going to have to buy it from somebody. And that means that the amount we can produce, housing stock, will be limited. That's my concern.
And if I can come back, and forgive me, Councillor Clark, I know you're well read, but it was Mark Twain rather than Councillor Clark that talked about making land. They don't make it anymore. I think in some ways you articulate really, really clearly the challenge that we've got in presenting the Breckland Bridge business plan. We do own land. As and when we want to apply a commercial remit to it, Breckland Bridge are our partner of choice within the joint venture. But equally, you will know, because you've heard other people saying, that land around the district wants to be kept for people to walk their dogs around and to play football with, because it's green lung space within towns, as opposed to being built on. And I think in some ways you articulate really well the challenge that we have with Breckland Bridge. I say again, the process of determining whether land may or may not be appropriate for local development, for local building projects, for community support, is a Breckland Council process. When we start thinking about to what extent can we exploit the value out of that land, in other words, having gone through the Breckland process to start actually getting land now looked at from Breckland Bridge, that's where we have to adopt a commercial, hard-edge view and exploiting the value of the land, whilst at the same time meeting our sustainable and our other best practice building things. I absolutely acknowledge that there are occasions when, to determine the value of a land for community use, we need to understand what's the land actually worth. What is the deprival value of the land? If we want to keep this as green space, what are we losing as a council by not building on it? And that challenge we have day in, day out. And you've heard some of the comments, Councillor Atwell, already earlier on.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. People have spoke with great emotion this morning, and I think we have to remember why we have Breckland Bridge. If Breckland Bridge didn't make the money, then the members wouldn't be able to spend it on supporting the people in Breckland. And, you know, I have a huge amount of frustration with that every time we come to this council with a project for Breckland Bridge, that it is not supported by the members opposite. But every time we have a project to spend the money that Breckland Bridge has made, the members opposite are the first in the queue to say that the money should be spent on this and that and the other. And Jeremy's shaking his head. And that is absolutely, Councillor Jeremy, how it has played out over time. And I have made this point before. The members in Thetford were against the redevelopment of the Anchor Hotel and the creation of the cinema and restaurants right up until the point when it was delivered and then claimed to be their idea all along. And this is a piece of work that Breckland Council took through the vehicle of Breckland Bridge, which delivered a piece of urban regeneration that the private sector wouldn't touch because they felt that it was too economically risky. But the members in this room decided that actually they would invest millions of pounds in the centre of Thetford through the vehicle of Breckland Bridge to deliver a piece of urban regeneration to support the people who lived in Thetford. And I was really pleased to see that. And it was only happened because of the support of the Conservative members of this council who pushed it through over many years, from aggregating the site, buying up the land, to enable that to happen. I will support the plan here today because, as is demonstrated, if there is an issue, the members who are the reason that we're all here, to represent the people, are involved in the process about the allocation of the land. And as said, some members opposite have actually supported the transfer of land away from Breckland Council to residents or other groups. So that by demonstrating that support for individual transfers, they actually ultimately support the whole process, is that we will keep the land that we own as a council in review to make sure that we are the right owners of the land at any point in time. And as soon as you say we mustn't do this, then you get anomalies where actually we've made a policy to say we're not going to look at the small sites, therefore you can't have the benefit of that because the council has made a decision. So it is really important that we continue with this, and that we do continue, because only by staying flexible and looking at all the options can we properly serve the people who we represent. And this plan is an important part of that. And the money generated by this business plan, all of the members here will be involved in how that is spent supporting the people of Breckland. And if we don't do it, that money won't be available, and those projects that are necessary or that this council deems important will not be delivered. It's as simple as that. So I, for one, will be supporting this. Thank you.
Councillor Wickerson.
Thank you, Chairman. I won't be supporting this, and for one specific reason. I think we have, with due respect to Councillor Hewitt, I think we have made a mistake in the sense of not taking this below the line, because I can't support, or not support as the case may be, a proposal when all the financial information has been redacted. I don't know how one can actually make a decision, because finance is always important, one way or the other. And the fact that you mentioned to Councillor Atterwill that if he had approached you, you would have given him that information in private, signifies to me that perhaps we should have taken this below the line so that we were all aware of the financial information, so that we could make a judgment outside of all of the arguments that have already been debated with regards to small sites, large sites, etc., etc. And therefore, I can't support this because I don't have the full information, excuse me, to do either to support or not, as the case may be. Thank you.
Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Chairman. I thought Councillor Atterwell rather well put the case about the contradiction in this approach with Breckland Bridge when it comes to other policies, particularly around housing. We spend over £1 million a year at the moment on temporary accommodation and housing benefit claims. £1 million every single year, a cost that is growing. The potential financial returns from the small sites disposal, when compared against that, are tiny, absolutely tiny. Across this district, we are going to lose forever pieces of land for very small financial return, and because we're not adopting the approach that Councillor Atwell suggested around affordable homes, we're not even looking at it from a long-term point of view and addressing problems that we know exist. So we'd have plenty more money, Councillor Borrett, to do all sorts of other things if you actually finally got to grip as a council with the housing challenge and adopted the approach that Roger outlined. But it's not just limited to housing. We are, on a separate agenda item today, looking to construct a new facility in Thetford, 3G pitch. This is no doubt one of those projects that Councillor Borrett is thinking of when he says that Thetford members are quite happy to take the council's money. We are denying people space to play free of charge, play opportunities, leisure, recreation opportunities for free. But contrary to that, we're happy to build a new facility which you have to pay to access. We have plenty of land available for space in communities, but we are preferring to put money into paid facilities. The Breckland Bridge policy also goes against our approach to climate and the environment. We've declared a climate emergency. We are attempting to reduce our carbon, but we are prioritising development on greenfield sites over and above bringing empty homes back into use and looking at it from an environment point of view when recognising that value. That contradiction with a whole number of other council policies and the lack of a joined-up approach is one of the main issues for me. And if I may, Chairman, understanding Order 16.3, in the interests of openness and transparency and accountability, I'd like to request that there's a recorded vote on this item.
Yeah, okay, Councillor Jeremy, before I go to the vote, you will need someone to second your proposal for a recorded vote and at least have 12 members.
I'll second that.
Yes, sorry, sir.
Thanks, Chairman. And if I can just try and indulge members to bring this back to basics of what's presented within the business plan itself. And this is a refresh of the business plan, and we do this annually. And it's our job as the council to undertake that. And we set out on this venture and landed Breckland Bridge back in 2015 to undertake some of those activities, to allow us, very small scale, to start to deliver affordable housing in those areas where we got the number of units right, Roger, to allow us to get that financial return on bits of land which had no community value, as Councillor Hewitt's referred to, but had some monetary value. And we've had some successes, and you can see that through the business plan of where they are and those next schemes of activity. Now, all of us want to deliver much needed housing across the district, and all of us want to ensure that people have access to fantastic open spaces and make sure that we cut the grass and pick up the litter, back to Councillor Land's point. But actually, I think what you've heard from Councillor Hewitt, it is really clear in this process that actually we have a part zero in the incarnation of how and what we do of our land. And that part zero is working with you as members and our communities to work out, does it have a community value? If it is, how do we achieve that? Do we, as the council, retain ownership for it? Do we allow a community group, a village, or someone to acquire that land? And actually, if it has no community value, then it can then go in the process of the wider Breckland Bridge small sites disposal scheme, in which, therefore, then it gets some wider monetary value. Now, part of part zero may be that there is some financial return because we allow a community group or parish council or town council to purchase that of us. Why? That's probably right and proper. I think it's suitable for when something has some type of value, that there is a financial transaction, and that will be a sliding scale, and the value will say it's worth X, but we don't necessarily have to sell it for X. We can negotiate that. And I know that in Thetford, we're working hard with you, slow out the starting blocks around some of those spaces such as Glebe Close, Terry and Terry. But there are other sites across the district which have no value. There is no community value, there is very little value for the land itself, but actually we can build properties on it. And if you look at my maps on Breckland, you will see the swathes of green areas which are owned by this council. We only have a small team. Now, to meet your expectations, well, I would need to increase the revenue to get a team to do this in a single case. But actually what we're doing it on a case-by-case basis, starting that conversation early on a locality basis. And actually, Roger, it's a really fair challenge. We spoke about it at Cabinet. We've got some work to do to give you and your community reassurance that the bits of land which we own, which are green open spaces, which for your neighbourhood plan have no possibility to be built on, we need to give you some certainty that we're removing that from our future lists. We're not quite there yet, and it's still feeling a bit clunky, and we get that. And actually, Paul and I and others have some work to do to give you reassurance. Terry, in Thetford, we've got some work to do around those open spaces, particularly on those areas which were previously our stock, then transferred to others, and actually they are important. And we've got some work to do around that. We've got to make sure that this isn't a desktop exercise, but all of you have to help us to achieve that and be our critical friend. Paul's job, quite rightly here, on his perspective, is to make sure that we get the best commercial return possible across every bit of land, every asset we own. The wider bit of us as the members of this council is to ensure we get the best results for our communities and our residents and our businesses. So part zero is what all of you are talking about. The wider bit than that of how we get the commercial return for bits of land is around the wider business plan process, which is presented through the annual refresh we've got to do today. So, Chairman, just to implore members that the Part 0, everyone's spoken about passionately, we absolutely acknowledge. We've got to make sure we refine that and get that to a better state. The bit we're speaking around for the business plan refresh is those bits of land which have nothing, which we can support the communities with, and we're then going to try and get the biggest bang for the buck as appropriate to do so, if that is appropriate to do so.
Thank you, Lena. Julie, could I have a roll call for recorded vote, please?
Do I need to move the recommendation, Chair?
We'll record it as we go along, Chair. Yes, Councillor Hewitt, I'll have you move the recommendation.
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is to approve the updated Breckland Bridge Limited Business Plan for 2023 through to 2028.
You've heard the recommendation and a call for recorded vote, which will happen as it go along if you make your known that you want to record it. So all in favour of the recommendation?
Just a process point, I'm not disagreeing, just a process point, Chairman. We have to have 13 to agree to the recorded vote.
Yeah. That's what I said about a roll call. So can we have a roll call for who would like to
show of hands for the recorded vote? Sorry, can I
okay, show of hands. I need 13 for a recorded vote. I was trying to do it the other way, but...
14.
So we have 40 members who would like a recorded vote. Okay, so all in favour of the recommendation? Okay, now you're doing the roll call. Right, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Thank you, Chairman. Could members reply for, against or abstain from the recommendation? Councillor Anscombe? Councillor Ashby? Councillor Atterwill? Councillor Bambridge? Councillor Bate? Councillor Borrett? Councillor Bowes? Councillor Brindle? Councillor Marion Chapman-Allen? Councillor Sam Chapman-Allen? Councillor Clark? Councillor Clausen? Councillor Cogman? Councillor Cowan? Oh, sorry. Yeah. Carried away again. Councillor Duffield? Councillor Fraser? Councillor Harvey? Councillor Hewitt? Councillor Jermy? Councillor Kiddell? Councillor Kiddle-Morris? Councillor Kybird? Councillor Land? Councillor McCambridge? Councillor Monument? Councillor Morton? Councillor Nunn? Councillor O'Callaghan? Councillor Plummer? Councillor Richmond? Councillor Sherwood? Oh, he's gone. Okay. Councillor Samantha Taylor? Councillor Taylor? Councillor Terry? Councillor Thurban? Councillor Turner? Councillor Webb? Councillor Wickerson? Councillor Wilkin? And Councillor Wilkinson?
Thank you for your vote. Members, it's 25 for and 13 against. And so this recommendation for the Breckland Bridge update business plan for 23 to 28 has been approved. I'll move now, going back to item 9 now, a Treasury Management report for 22-23. Councillor Phil Cowan to deliver this for you.
Thank you, Chairman. Just before I do, Teresa, the Boundary Commission people are still upstairs. They came down, they've gone back for obvious reasons. Item 9 on our agenda is an item, colleagues, that has been around the system effectively in the Council already. It is today for Council to approve the prudential indicators within the report and to note the Treasury Management Annual Report at Appendix B and C. As it has been to Governance and Audit, and we have discussed it at length, I don't propose to go into a great deal of detail unless members wish to ask questions. And if they do, we have Alison Chubbuck in the room with us as well to answer specific details. So, Chairman, at that point, I'll leave it, if I may.
Okay, members, any questions? No questions?
In which case, Chairman, can I move the recommendations? Item 1, to approve the actual 22-23 prudential indicators within the report, and 2, to note the Treasury Management Annual Report for 22-23 at Appendix B and Appendix C. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor. I will take 1 and 2 recommendations on block. All in favour? Lovely. Any against? Abstentions? No. Okay, thank you. That seems to be an unanimous vote, and this recommendation has been approved. So we're going back. So it's Councillor Phil Cowan again, the Finance Performance Report, item 10 on your agenda.
Thank you, Chairman. Again, colleagues, this particular report has been both to Cabinet and to scrutiny, but I still believe it's in all our interests if we have a brief discussion. So the report before us today reflects that position which the Council finds itself at the end of the fiscal year 22-23 and also provides performance data for the same period. But in this particular forum today, we're only focusing on the finance report. The recommendation is that the report and appendix be noted and that further that full Council is recommended to approve that the capital budgets and associated funding sources of £4,364,264 be carried forward into the year 23-24 to support our capital projects. That the revised capital budget and associated funding for years 23-24 capital programme detailed in Appendix A be approved, and that the final capital outturn and funding for year 22-23 as detailed in Appendix B is approved. So, colleagues, if we look at the position that we were facing as a council at Q3, we were anticipating that we'd have to draw down significant contributions, just over £500,000 from the general fund to balance our accounts. This figure, we'll all recall, was set against some escalating housing costs and significant inflationary pressures. It also shows the importance, I suppose, of reporting on a regular basis to understand and appreciate the changing patterns of finance during the financial year. and to develop policies that are appropriate, agile and meaningful to address the changing face of cost and effect on local government finance. So if we now fast forward from March to today, we can see that at Appendix C, the budget deficit has fallen to £196,000, a reduction of £346,000 on that position that we were perhaps anticipating a quarter ago, despite the health and housing costs having risen within the same period. And furthermore, this council has invested in its emergency housing provision in Thetford and Dereham, and you heard earlier about the new houses that have just come on stream in Dereham from our leader, and that's resulted in stripping out somewhere between £300,000 and £375,000 of cost on an annual basis that would otherwise have been added to our bottom line. Our commitment to providing best value for money services shows that the prudent fiscal policies that we employ do serve the residents of Breckland well. The details behind the headline figures are contained within the report before us and identify the significant variances, and I and my team will endeavour to answer any questions that you may have. In the meantime, may I commend the work of the finance team, who've worked diligently with the whole of Team Breckland to deliver a very positive end-of-year finance report, of which we all should be proud. Thank you, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. I have a question from Councillor Atterwell.
Thank you for that report, Phil. Could I draw your attention to Appendix B, please? I wonder if you could clarify a couple of points for me. Particularly looking at health and housing, we seem to have, according to this, a £700,000 underspend on things which include facilities grants. And I'm just wondering why that is, bearing in mind we've got a significant waiting list, and anybody that is deemed in need of a DFG, Disabled Facilities Grant, they have to wait over a year now for the work to be completed. And my second question is, on the capital loans bit, where you've got LabV loans, which I'm assuming is, for anybody that doesn't know, it's a local asset-backed vehicle. I think I've got that right. Could you tell me what rate of interest we're charging on those loans, please?
Let's start with the second one first, please. Alison will be able to give you exact figures on that particular item. If she can't do it today, we'll be able to give you a written answer on that one, Roger. As far as the DFGs are concerned, I think our leader would like to respond on that point.
Yes, I'm happy to comment on that. Thank you, Councillor Atwell. As has already been said, this was aired at previous council meeting, cabinet and scrutiny. But just to confirm what was said, the figure of 700k is not an underspend, but a carried forward figure, and the funds are all allocated to work which is being processed and then allocated out to our 7 contractors. Some funds were also held back to enable timely response to priority 1 cases, and they came in through the last year, and these are all either in progress or completed, along with further cases paid for with this year's funding allocation. So I can confirm that the budget for both last year and this year will be spent or committed, and that officers are managing the situation appropriately and fairly. Thank you.
Councillor Atwell, you want to come back?
Yeah, thank you for that answer, Claire. Which leads me on to page 78 of the report, section 4.2. It says the council continues to explore ways of funding this additional demand in relation to DFGs. Now, I know that previously you have said that you're talking to, and I think your predecessor were talking to local MPs about that, but can you be a bit more specific about any funds that you're trying to tap into to try and alleviate the problem? Is there a bit more of an update on that other than we're just talking to the MPs? I'd be grateful, please. Thank you.
I haven't got a specific update on exact funding, but to confirm that I have had conversations with George Freeman, and the Assistant Director and myself have recently met with him to brief him on the situation. He's raising the funding issue with the Secretary of State, and I know that the leader has also written to the Secretary of State,
and I've drawn George's attention to the allocation methodology, which needs to be, in my opinion, updated. But I can get back to you on the second part of your question. Yeah, thank you.
Leader, could you give
Yeah,
us an
thanks.
update,
And just to expand on Councillor Bowles's point, and I know that her and her predecessor have been working hard around this, Roger, I know that lots of people in this chamber have lots of concerns and issues with it. So the most recent position is, once again, reaffirming back to the Minister of State around the formula used to allocate that money to Norfolk as a county, and then how that's then divided up across the county. There is not enough money, so we're working hard to try and get that increase for this winter statement moving ahead. We keep our fingers crossed. Wider than that, though, as you heard from Councillor Bowles, that isn't an underspend. That's part of the process for the officers to keep that for those priority cases which come forward. Councillor Bowles and her directors are working with NCF to see if we can use some of the better care funding to support some of the wider activity and a bit more money out for us and prove concept from that, and then wider work across the whole of the county of Norfolk as to how we can maybe proportion an allocation across every district into a central pool, and those which have priority or further need can then draw that down. So Councillor Bowles is working to try and overcome that in quick order, particularly ahead of this winter season we're seeing.
Councillor Kyberg.
Thank you, Chairman. As the Disabled Facilities Grant is a health-related matter, I have managed to get that included in Norfolk Health scrutiny so they can look at it in a broader Norfolk perspective. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Cowan, do you want to move the recommendations?
Yes, if there are no further questions, Chairman. Go back to the beginning of the agenda. So we have before us essentially three recommendations. That the capital budgets and associated funding source of £4,364,264 be carried forward into the year 23-24 to support the approved capital projects. That the revised capital budget and associated funding for the 23-24 year capital programme as detailed in Appendix A be approved, and that the final capital outturn and funding for year 22-23 as detailed in Appendix B be approved. Move those recommendations, Chairman.
Thank you, Councillor. You've heard 1, 2 and 3 recommendations. I will take the vote on block for all three. All in favour? Thank you. Any against? Abstentions? That's unanimous, and the recommendations and this is approved. Item 11, leisure centres decarbonisation. Councillor Tristan Ashby to deliver the report, please.
Actually, Chairman, it will be myself who will present this report. Thank you, Chair.
Thank you.
Chair, colleagues, members, this report seeks to release £530,000 towards the installation of decarbonisation technology at our leisure centres in Thetford and Dereham. There are 4 options in the report, and the recommendation is to proceed with option 2. This will see the following delivered at Thetford and Dereham. 1, installation of destratification fans. 2, building management system optimisation works. 3, lagging improvements and optimisation of the heating systems. And 4, Thetford would also see the replacement of single glazed windows. Members, option 2 would see an estimated overall annual cost saving of £116,171 across both sites, just over £50,000 in Thetford and just under £65,000 in Dereham. But more importantly, option 2 will see an estimated overall carbon emission savings each year from both centres of around 175 tonnes, around 89 in Thetford and about 86 in Dereham. Not only will this project assist in reducing our Scope 3 emissions, members will of course know that Scope 1, the emissions that we ourselves produce, Scope 2, the emissions that we have secondary in terms of power that we use, and Scope 3, which is third-party emissions that nonetheless we need to oversee and manage and control. But it also gives us a real long-term return on investment and the best of all of the options presented, as it's the best immediate revenue benefit that will assist us in the reduction of the current benchmark figure, which is taking place within our current benchmark exercise with Parkwood. It goes without saying, colleagues, members, Chair, that energy costs are one of the largest expenses associated with running our leisure centres. And whilst our leisure operator has made significant improvements and demonstrated an ongoing reduced energy usage, the reality is that the cost of energy continues to outstrip the reduced usage, and this will continue to adversely affect the cost of delivering our leisure offering should we do nothing. Chair, I will endeavour to answer any questions on this report as presented, although if a more detailed response is required, I will ensure that officers provide the information to anyone asking the appropriate question.
Thank you, Councillor. Any questions? Councillor Jeremy.
Thank you, Chairman. Thank you, Paul, for the introduction. Just two questions. Firstly, I wondered if you could expand on recommendation 2. I've read it a couple of times, and to be honest, I still don't completely understand it. It talks about delegating authority in respect of any future grant funding. Presumably that's grant funding in relation to carbon reduction measures at the 2 leisure centres. I just want to be absolutely clear on that because I'm not overly clear. Of any amount, normally there's a cap involved with these sorts of things, but of any amount. And I just wondered, this is a significant sum of public money. Carbon reduction projects, some work tremendously well, some don't work at all, frankly. What measuring will you be putting in place to make sure that we're getting what we say we're going to get, frankly? Is this going to work? And how will you report back to Council to demonstrate that this is value for money?
A couple of things, Councillor. Firstly, you are correct. We will endeavour to look for any grant fundings available and option a recommendation to actually specifically gives the authority to hopefully pursue all of those funding costs. Secondly, we will be reporting back on a monthly basis to make sure, whether it be through OSC or whether it actually be to people in general, in terms of the savings that are achieved. If I can be bold and be smart, we will also be reporting back as part of the benchmarking process, because reduced energy savings will mean that we ourselves hopefully will be able to pay less in real cash terms for our ongoing Parkwood provision.
No more questions? Can you move the recommendations, Councillor?
Thank you, Chair. The recommendation is one, that Cabinet recommend full Council agree to the release of funds of up to £530 from growth reserves to enable delivery of preferred technology mix, option 2, in this report to ensure improvements at both PFI sites for carbon reduction and or energy cost savings. 2, that Cabinet recommend to full Council to delegate authority to accept the terms and conditions of any future grant funding secured to Executive Member for Health and Communities in consultation with the Assistant Director of Contracts and Operations, as officers continue to explore all funding opportunities. And 3, that delegation is given to the Assistant Director of Contracts and Operations and the Council Solicitor in consultation with the Executive Member of Property, Projects and Procurement to carry out negotiations with Parkwood Leisure and associated companies to obtain the best benchmarking outcome for the Council. Move the recommendation, Chair.
Thank you, Councillor. The 3 go together, so we'll take the vote on the 3. All in favour? Any against? Abstentions? That's a unanimous vote, and that conditions, those recommendations are approved. Item 12, Thetford 3G. Who would like to take this? And that is Councillor Ashby. Thank you.
Thank you, Chair. I'm very pleased to provide this report to full council, which seeks to release capital funding of £109,000 towards the conversion of the existing multi-use games pitch at the Leisure Centre in Thetford to a 3G football pitch. The capital investment will allow us to match against funds released from the leisure operator and enable us to submit a funding application to the Football Foundation later this year. This is the second time this project has come forward following an approach from the Football Foundation, who have identified the site as a key strategic location for the provision of a 3G pitch. The report sets out the commercial business case for this decision. The feasibility work has identified it as an opportunity to increase revenue of the pitch, which will reduce the ongoing liability associated with a current pitch, which is underutilised. Officers have engaged heavily with England Hockey and the local hockey clubs to provide advice and support about a potential move from their existing location, and a facility report has been commissioned which identifies an opportunity for the provision of an all-weather hockey pitch in an alternative location in Thetford. Whilst this opportunity is still in development stage, key partners are engaged and actively moving the project forward. Officers have briefed local ward members and met again with the hockey club prior to today's meeting. Not only will the delivery of this project assist in mitigating long-term loss of income from the existing pitch, it will also be used short-term to help negotiate an improved benchmark position in the current benchmarking process, which is underway and will impact on the Council's budget in 2024. I hope that Council will support this recommendation. Happy to take any questions verbally or in writing.
Thank you, Councillor. I have Councillor Land.
Thank you, Chair, and thank you, Councillor Ashby. A good report. It may come as some surprise to you to know that I have something of a sporting heritage myself, as well as being a long-term season ticket holder for a Premier League club that have just won a European trophy. Also played a high standard of football, cricket and rugby union. More importantly, I think in this regard, I also, when I played at school, played hockey and represented my county in the east of England at that sport. And so, as much as I'm very, very pleased that we're providing this facility, I'm also hugely pleased that account has been taken of Thetford Hockey, who would otherwise perhaps have folded. I'm very pleased to see that they're being taken care of as well. So thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Harvey, then Councillor Terry.
Thank you, Chair. I also have spent many years in our town, possibly at a higher standard than this chap, playing football, refereeing and coaching. I didn't play egg chasing or hockey, but I'm really well pleased to see the investment coming into Thetford. But I must insist that we support the hockey club at all times. We must not lose our Thetford Hockey Club. And in the clue, it's in the name, sport for all.
Thank you, Councillor Terry. Councillor Terry.
I'm not going to say who I play for or anything like that, but anyway, as a volunteer football coach myself, I know many matches on grass pitches are frequently cancelled due to the weather. So a new 3G football pitch will give local clubs and the community greater access to play all year round, 7 days a week, and during evenings and in all weathers. It will also help Norfolk County Football Association grow women's football and people with disabilities to access this sport, two of its strategic objectives. Local football demand for 3G pitch access in this location far outweighs existing supply. Therefore, it's imperative a full-size 3G football pitch is developed. The pitch will also harness the benefits of local development by levering in additional funding for community-based projects. The installation of a 3G football pitch to replace the existing multi-use games area is an ideal solution, which unfortunately creates a problem by displacing the town's hockey club, who currently use this facility. We cannot lose our town's hockey club, and we will not lose our town's hockey club. Sport is for all, but we cannot refuse the huge investment being made by the Football Foundation. I fully support the installation of a 3G football pitch with the investment from the Football Foundation and Breckland District Council to help give Thetford's grassroots footballers more space to play the beautiful game, to enhance our next generation of budding footballers, both male and female. It also supports our local professional clubs of Norwich City, Ipswich Town, along with Cambridge United, who would invest in community soccer hubs within the town, and it would create further revenue, plus organisations that include the Walking Football Association, Man vs Fat, the Wildcats and the Football Fun Factory that caters for young children with after-school and holiday clubs, again supplying more revenue. In May this year, the Vitality Women's FA Cup final saw over 77,000 people attend the final. It was the second largest attendance for a women's game in this country, incidentally only beaten by the Lionesses' Euro triumph in July. Girls' football is now the most played sport in Norfolk schools, and a 3G pitch will only improve and increase participation. With a resolution with the hockey club close, now is the time to bring a much-needed facility to this town. We need investment to promote grassroots sport. Unfortunately, as a council, we are guilty of not supporting our sports clubs and teams, and this should just be the start of investing in our sports clubs, not just in Thetford, but across the district. The legacy that Lord Coe promoted to support the London 2012 Olympic bid, which was based on legacy for the next generation, seems to have given our district a very wide berth. I will be supporting this 3G project.
Thank you. Councillor Ashby, you want to move the recommendations? Don't read them out, you've heard them. We've heard them. We've heard the recommendations. I'll just ask Councillor to...
Thank you, Chair. I'd like to move the recommendations.
All in favour? Anyone against? Abstentions? No. Thank you very much. These recommendations have been approved. Item 14, nominations for committees and any other seats. Councillor Chapman.
Lovely. Thanks, Chairman. Just like to update members for changes on the A47 Alliance. Councillor Bambridge to be replaced as substitute by Councillor Suggett. On the Norfolk Strategic Flood Alliance, Councillor Bambridge to be replaced by Councillor Suggett. The Restorative Approaches Strategic Board, Councillor Bambridge to be replaced by Councillor Ashby. Water Resources East, Councillor Bambridge to be replaced by Helen Crane.
Thank you. Councillor Jeremy? None. Councillor Attewell? None. Thank you. Item 15, amendments to the Constitution. I'm not aware of any. Any other business? I do not have any. And so before I close the meeting, I'd like to thank the public listening, watching on the YouTube channels and social media channels. And I'd also like to remind you, and we have had an officer come down from the Commissioner's office about the boundary review. I know you've had a long meeting, but it would be civil for as many members can stay for this boundary commission. And yeah, I think that before that there will be a comfort break. So with that, I close the meeting. If you can make it back for 12:30 members, 12:30.